Information Technology and General Services Committee will now come to order. If anybody would like to address the committee, there are public comment cards you can fill out in the back of the room, and you can give them to clerk to my left. With that, we'll begin taking items in order with item number 1 first.
Item number 1, Department of General Services report relative to a request for approval of a rent credit to 9517 Glasgow LLC and South Gravelea LLC at 820 West Washington Boulevard, Venice.
Chuck Rubin, General Services Asset Management. This rent credit is to reimburse the lessee for damage to his building from trees that were on city property. So we're giving him a credit to have the trees removed and repair his building.
Okay. And did they replace trees, or they just
No,
took them out? So they just took them out?
correct.
Okay. Unfortunate. Okay, so with this action, it'll close out the matter with this tenant?
Correct.
Okay, good. Is there anybody here to make public comment on item number 1? Public comment on item number 1 is now open. Seeing and hearing none, public comment on item number 1 is now closed. With that, will be a recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve this item. We go to item number 2.
Item number 2, GSD report relative to a proposed lease agreement for a Los Angeles Police Department substation at 6801 Hollywood Boulevard.
This is a $1 a year lease for approximately 2,100 square feet for an LAPD substation. The landlord has offered the space to LAPD at no cost.
And this is due to the changing atmosphere of the complex?
I believe they've been there. I'm not sure if they've been there on a formal basis, but this is because of the high traffic and different events that go on that can be manned and staffed from a central location at Hollywood and Highland.
Does the organization operating the complex, do they have their own security as well?
Yes.
They do? Are they, as far as we know, are they increasing their security?
I'm
Correct.
not aware of that.
Okay. I think this came up when we were talking about the parking lot there.
If you'd like, we'd be glad to find out.
Yeah, I'd like to know if they're increasing their security, because I think somebody brought this to my attention about a year ago. And security was something that was in the contract with the lease that is currently there. Okay. Is anybody here to make comment on item number 2? We're on item number 2. Public comment on item number 2 is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment on item number 2. With that, it'll be a recommendation of the chairman of this committee to approve the item. Move now to item number 3.
Item number 3, GSD report relative to a proposed amendment to lease agreement number C-111774 with Samuel Bagershakian doing business as City Cell Connection at the Marvin Browdy Neighborhood City Hall, Van Nuys.
This request is to extend the commencement date of this lease due to construction issues that we caused that were not the fault of the tenant, but delayed the tenant's opening. And so we have agreed with the city attorney and the tenant to this rent credit,
Okay.
to this delay of commencement.
Okay. So it's purely a dollar for dollar rent credit?
Yes.
Okay. Good. With that, is there anybody here to make public comment on item number 3? We're on item number 3. Public comment is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 3, public comment on item number 3 is now closed. With that, it'll be a recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve the item. We now move to item number 4.
Item number 4, GSD report relative to a proposed lease renewal with 100 Towers LLC for maintaining rooftop communications equipment at 2049 Century Park East, formerly council file number 98-2203.
This is a lease renewal. We've had this lease for 9 years, and it's for communication equipment for LAPD and LAFD.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody here to make public comment on item number 4? We're on item number 4. Public comment is now open on item number 4. Seeing and hearing no public comment, item number 4 is, public comment is closed. With that, it'll be a recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve the item. Move to item number 5.
Item number 5, GSD report relative to a proposed lease amendment with KG Ohan doing business as O Salad, Salad by the Pound in the Los Angeles Mall, space 14A.
The tenant, in the process of executing the lease, has a legal name change, and that's what this is for, to have council approve that to go into the lease correctly.
So all other elements of the lease will remain the same. It's just
Correct.
the name change.
Just a name change.
Okay. All right. With that, is anybody here to make public comment on item number 5? Public comment on item number 5 is now open. Seeing and hearing none, public comment on item number 5 is now closed. With that, it'll be a recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve item number 5.
Thank you.
Move now to item number 6.
Item number 6, motion Perry Reyes relative to directing the GSD and any other appropriate city department or agency to take the necessary steps to grant an easement to the Department of Water and Power at 303 East First Street and related matters.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Greg Fisher with the Office of Councilwoman Jan Perry. This is a site at the corner of First Street and Judge John Iso Street. It's an historic building that the Community Redevelopment Agency has granted money to for a facade and interior improvement program. I went to visit the site at the request of the CRA and met with the Department of Water and Power and subsequently with the Department of General Services. The building's age is such and the building's electrical system is such that the building had to be cored literally through the floor in order to be able to bring electrical service to the rear of the building and then brought up so that the electrical box could be attached to the back of the building, which invades the city property in an easement area, sort of a courtyard. It's a blank back courtyard in the Coban building. We explored a number of options, and this seemed to be the only one that would work. The people who owned the property had to vacate the unit that the construction work occurred in for a period of time, lost some income, but were willing to do it in order to be able to do this upgrade, which they felt was necessary, so did the CRA. It certainly looked like it needed it.
Okay. All right. Is anybody here to make public comment on item number 6? Item number 6 is now open for public comment. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 6, public comment is now closed. With that, it'll be a recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve the item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving now to item number 7.
Item number 7, ITA report relative to Cox Communications programming changes for franchise area N.
Good afternoon, Councilmember
Afternoon.
Cardenas. How are you? William Imperial Information Technology Agency. In regard to this item, Cox Communications notified ITA that it was implementing the addition and retiering of its channel lineup commencing in October 2007. 5 new high-definition channels were added to the HD channel lineup along with the Discovery channel for the price of $4.95. Federal law preempts the city from regulating the tiering practices of cable companies. City residents in Council District 15, Councilmember Hahn's Council District, have been affected by these changes. That concludes my report on this matter.
Okay. What did you say about the federal government precluded what?
The federal law preempts the cities or any city from regulating the tiering practices. Every cable operator has certain tiers that they offer their services on, from basic to middle to high-end tiers by way of pricing. The low basic service tier was regulated by the city, and in our 14 former franchise areas, we actually had full authority, except in two franchise areas until recently, to regulate the basic service tier of the cable operators. We lost that with regard to the passing of the new Cable Act, the new DIVCA law.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for letting us know what they're going to do. With that, we'll note and file this item. Anybody here to speak on this item? Item number 7? Item number 7, public comments open. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 7 is closed. We'll note and file this item. We now move to item number 8.
Item number 8, ITA report relative to AT&T California. Will begin offering UVerse TV service in certain areas of Los Angeles. Additionally, this has been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you. William Imperial again from the Information Technology Agency. In November 2007, AT&T notified the city that it was commencing the offering of video TV services in December 2007 in Council District 3, Councilmember Zine's district, and Council District 12, Councilmember Smith's district. AT&T's video TV system is known as UVerse. Representatives of AT&T are working with various departments of the city to deploy its UVerse video TV system to other parts of the city at this time. They operate under a state franchise issued by the Public Utilities Commission and not the city.
Okay. What's UVerse? What is that?
UVerse is the marketing name of the cable TV system of AT&T. AT&T bases their video TV system on a programming system based on IP protocol. And so they are basically calling themselves UVerse, essentially like Time Warner uses Roadrunner. It's their marketing name for their cable TV system, similar to Fios, which is, I can go down the line, which is what Verizon uses.
Mm-hmm. And so through this UVerse, constituents of our city could actually get what kind of service through UVerse? What practical end user activity would they get from UVerse?
Well, AT&T is marketing this as their version of cable TV.
Okay. What people know now as cable TV, so basically video, being able to view movies or what have you, what people normally see on TV, instead of going through a cable company, they could actually go through AT&T and get a similar service?
That's correct. AT&T is a telephone company, as you're aware, and they have now moved into the cable TV market in the Los Angeles area, as well as Verizon, which is another telephone company. But Verizon does state that their cable TV system is a cable TV system. It doesn't say that they're a video TV system, by the way.
That's Verizon.
That's Verizon.
And AT&T calls their service what, besides UVerse? They don't call it
A
cable.
video TV service.
They call it video TV.
Yes. And the new law actually incorporates that language into the law itself by way of definitions.
What new law?
The DIVCA, the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act of 2007, that was passed by the state legislature in 2006 and approved by the governor, of course.
So the language was actually written that actually provides the terminology that AT&T would use?
Yes, that's correct.
Who wrote that law?
Nunez and Levine wrote the law. The sponsors were AT&T and Verizon, the telephone companies.
So the language actually serves them very well, very accurately.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that was written by the legislature?
It was authored by Nunez and Levine. As to who actually authored the bill, I think we can read between the lines. The sponsors of the bill, the sponsor of the bill was AT&T.
Okay. Anybody here to speak on item number 8? We are now on item number 8. Public comment is open on item number 8. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 8, public comment is now closed on item number 8. With that, thank you for that information. We'll note and file the item.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to item number 9.
Item number 9, ITA report relative to Time Warner programming changes for former city franchise areas A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and M.
Thank you. William Imperial again for ITA. With regard to this particular item, it segues from item number 7 that you just heard. Time Warner, though, is the notifier in this particular case. They notified ITA that it was implementing the addition of Sorpresa free video on demand service commencing April 7, 2008 and deleting AZN television. There are no pricing changes associated with these programming changes. And again, the city is preempted from regulating the tiering practices of the cable companies in this area.
Okay. The word sorpresa means surprise.
Yes.
Was the word surprise in that legislation you were just talking about a few minutes ago? With exclamation points?
It was for me, but I wasn't that surprised. And the Time Warner subscribers who reside in any of the city's 15 council districts, as you heard, are going to be affected by this change.
Okay. All right. Is anybody here to make comment on item number 9? Item number 9, public comment is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 9. Public comment on item number 9 is now closed. With that, we'll note and file this item. Now move to item number 10.
Item number 10, CAO to report and ITA report relative to delay in implementing the supply management system upgrade and related matters. Additionally, as a technical correction to the council file number 07-0121.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Want to bring us up to speed on where we're at here?
I don't know what you're looking at right now. Is that the CAO report?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, would you like to hear the CAO report? I'm Jacob Wexford from the CAO's office. Item 10 is an ITA and GSD report requesting $2.5 million from the reserve fund for the ongoing project to upgrade the supply management system. At the request of the chair of the CAO just today has submitted a report on the ITA and GSD request. First, I just want to note that as indicated in the CAO report and also in the GSD and ITA report, this is a critical project that's absolutely vital to go forward, and the issues, there are problems with SMS is causing problems with our financial data and as it impacts our financial statements. Therefore, it is appropriate to identify an appropriate reserve fund funding for this project as it goes forward. Just to break down the request, the original request from GSD and ITA, there's about $2,055,000 for an upgrade of a contract with Metaformers that's working on the upgrade of the SMS project. It's broken down into 3 main purposes. There's about $460,000, which is used for cleaning up the data and year-end reconciliation. That work is ongoing. Through the work that's already been done, the contractor, along with GSD and ITA, were able to identify over $17 million of prior year encumbrances that can be released. So it shows that the value of this project it shows the value of the project. In addition, there's an additional about $580,000 requested for the actual upgrade to SMS itself, and another $773,000 for the development of self-maintenance tools, which will allow ITA to operate the system on an ongoing basis and do these kind of reconciliations without the assistance of the contractor, in the future. Finally, there's about a $240,000 contract contingency requested. Also included in the $2.5 million requested is $300,000 for 2 contract programmers that ITA will use to support the ITA's work related to the upgrade. This contract, these programs are necessary because there are 2 vacancies of ITA SMS staff that have been difficult to fill. and there's a need to sort of have additional staff support for ITA during this process. Finally, there's about $145,000 requested for a new server and the related software and overtime for ITA staff working on this project. The CEO recommendations differ somewhat from the request from GSD and ITA. It should be noted that the differences are in the funding amounts, but there is a recommendation in the CEO report that GSD and ITA report back in 60 days with an update on where the project is, and at that time request additional funds. We don't necessarily believe that the amounts identified in the CEO report are going to be sufficient to complete the project, but we would like to have, as the project moves on, I think the costs become more clear. So that's the reason that we've sort of recommended funding for what's necessary at this time and report back for additional funding in the future. The specific differences, we recommend reducing the amount of the contract dedicated for the self-maintenance from $772,000 down to about $582,000. There are two main reasons for this. One, the amount requested did not include a 15% discount, which is being offered by the contractor because the contract's on time and materials. In addition, there's following the completion of the tools for self-maintenance, the tools that are going to help ITA to do this work on their own, there's a 6-month period of ongoing consultation and assistance, and this begins in January of 2009. We're recommending holding off on that funding at this time. The hope would be that it's about $88,000, and the hope would be that through the tools that are provided, ITA would be able to go ahead and they would be adequate, they would be sufficient for ITA to be able to do the maintenance on their own and do the work on their own. In addition, we're recommending reducing the contingency amount from $240,000 to $120,000. Again, since there's a report back recommended, there's an opportunity to come back and request additional funding for a specific purpose when that becomes necessary. And finally, we're not recommending funding for the contract programmers at this time. Instead, we're recommending that the council and mayor authorize ITA to an exemption from the hiring freeze from the managed hiring process to fill the 2 positions that are vacant. If ITA is not able to identify people who have the qualifications to do that work in-house, then we believe they can use their salary savings from those 2 vacancies to pay for the contract programmers in the meantime. And if the contract programmer funding, if the salary savings is not sufficient, when the report back comes, they can come back and ask for additional funding. But again, the preference and the recommendation of the CEO is that the hope would be that ITA would be able to find people in-house and hire people so we could do this, especially in this time when we're trying to do all this work for self-maintenance. It makes more sense to provide that knowledge transfer, that self-maintenance, that expertise to people who are going to be city employees, who are going to be here for a while. Unfortunately, because of the late nature of the report that the CEO submitted, we were advised that we had to read or at least summarize the gist of the recommendations into the record, so you'll let me just...
Go ahead.
Okay. The first recommendation is to transfer $1,889,128 from the reserve fund to the unappropriated balance for the purposes including $1,624,428 for the Metaformers contract, $120,000 for contingency on this contract, $38,800 for overtime funding for ITA staff related to SMS project, $90,000 for furniture, office, and technical equipment for the SMS supply management system development server, and $15,900 for the software and software related to the server. Second recommendation is to instruct the Information Technology Agency and the General Services Department to report back to the council in 60 days with the update on the status of the upgrade and the need for additional funding. The third recommendation is to exempt from the managed hiring process 1 programmer analyst 5 and 1 senior systems analyst 2 in the Information Technology Agency that are dedicated to support the supply management system, and to instruct ITA to make every effort to fill those positions. The fourth recommendation is to instruct ITA to provide the CAO with a full accounting, including supporting documentation of the funds spent for this project once the upgrade and self-maintenance components are complete, so that funds that were not used for this project can be returned to the reserve fund. And the final recommendation is to instruct ITA to submit the contract amendment with Metaformers for review and approval as required by city policies and procedures prior to the execution of the contract.
Okay, thank you. ITA, you have a report?
Yes, we submitted a report prior to the CAO report where we requested $2.5 million, and that was for really 3 different deliverables. One was to assist us with the year-end close and the data reconciliation and cleanup. The second was the delay in the upgrade from 7.5 to 9.0 of PeopleSoft. And the third was we're calling self-maintenance, which would be much more of our ability to run the system on our own, which we are not doing very well today based on results. I don't want to be here again next year asking for millions of dollars. And we were here last year, I was here a month, and we had asked for more money to get through year end. It is evident that we do not have the skill sets within the city to operate this system on our own. And why is that? That comes in a few different flavors. Number one, there is no other place in the city that actually has PeopleSoft. Not at the airport, not at DWP, not at the harbor, and not anywhere else in the city. So we are the only organization that actually has PeopleSoft. We've already started the list once, 6 months ago, and there was nobody else in the city that had PeopleSoft. These need to be exempt positions, and then they need to be called what they are in the open marketplace. They're not called information systems managers. They're called configurators. They're called different titles, PeopleSoft 9.0 configurator, financials or HR payroll, et cetera. And then finally, we have to pay market rate if we want to keep these people. And that's the bottom line. This is considered a hot skill in the IT marketplace, whether it's private sector or public sector. And then finally, when you have an enterprise-wide system, they call this an ERP system, you have to provide the people ongoing training. In the last 3 weeks, Tony and I lost 2 critical resources to DWP on this project. We have no tools to retain these people, and that is critical knowledge on PeopleSoft team that's walking right out the door. Now, the reason we have 2 contractors is because we haven't been able to hire the people that actually know this in-house. That's why we requested continuation of these contractors, which are critical to the operation of the system. If we can get all these things that we talked about, getting exempt people, being able to hire on the outside, making them different classes, and giving them training, then we will increase our ability to run this system on our own. To the extent that we're unable to do this, we will be continually being here asking for more money from Metaformers to assist us in running in the system. So that was the reason that we requested the $300,000 for the continuation of those programmers. They really are configurators on PeopleSoft that have a lot of experience. And unfortunately, this is not a skill set where you can take one person, send them to class, and all of a sudden they're a PeopleSoft configurator. Just because I took a class in plumbing doesn't make me a plumber. So it is that kind of analogy that I'd like you to be aware of, that you can't just take one class and then all of a sudden you're the expert in this tool. The other thing that you should be aware of is that this isn't just one module, this is 6 modules. And 6 modules are equivalent to almost 6 different applications. So it's very difficult for one person to become an expert in this. Plus now we're dealing with 2 systems. We're dealing with a 7.5 system that's been highly customized with 400 additional programs, and moving it to a 9.0, which will have a lot less customizations in it. As far as the data reconciliation and data cleanup effort is concerned with year-end, most companies and organizations that actually have proper operational procedures put in place actually do either weekly or daily reconciliation so that they don't get into the kind of problem that we're in right now. But we don't have the proper operational procedures developed and documented and being followed for us to be able to adequately close the system, and so that we don't have to go wait an entire year to try and close it and then reconcile it with the general ledger. This was one of the reasons, an additional reason why we wanted to go ahead and put in these self-maintenance tasks so that we could have Metaformers do a proper knowledge transfer to our team to be able to run the system on our own. The activities that are related to year-end include closing a lot of the open purchase orders, closing open receivers and receipt accruals, eliminating, as Jacob had talked about, unnecessary encumbrances which do relate to closing open purchase orders, reconciling the data with the general ledger, updating the interface in between, and in some cases a manual cleanup. It's a lot of work. And not saying that this work isn't necessary, it's absolutely critical, because when we start with 9.0 also, we want to start with as clean a system as possible. What else can I tell you here? What other questions do you have?
One of the things that seems to be, I'm a little perplexed, is here we have ITA expressing to this committee about a certain skill set that you strongly believe that we're not going to be able to acquire and have in-house, and which means we need to contract out these services. And then we have the CAO's office saying, well, we need to get these people in-house. But from the CAO, why is it that you feel that we should be able to bring them in-house? I know logistically, internally, we may want to, because that's the way we like to do business, but this is a specific skill set, and the going rate is higher than we're willing to offer. I mean, even within our own family, we've got two people going over to DWP because we all know that they're willing and able to pay them a percentage higher than what they get for working for the city. So why is it that we keep insisting that we should be able to acquire these in-house and bring them in-house?
I mean, generally, we would prefer to have these people to be in-house for some of the reasons that I think that Ms. Levin is listing, so that we have people who can be, those are the reasons that we want them to come in-house. If these positions cannot be hired because either the classification, the amounts that are in terms of salary is not adequate, because we can't find people to fill these positions with the proper skills, then clearly, it's appropriate at that time to contract out. And it may be appropriate to go through a process to change the classifications, to request exemptions, to try to work with the personnel department, to try to create, city staff who we could hire in to be able to do this kind of work. That's a separate process that could also occur. So we're not saying that they should hire a programmer analyst 5 and a senior systems programmer 2, senior systems analyst 2, if those people would not have the appropriate skills to do the work. That's not the position that the report takes. It's just that to the degree that we could make the effort to try to get people who do have those skills, I think that effort should continue to be made. If it can't be done, then we should go through a process to get the proper positions that we can do that.
From your vantage point, Randy, is time of the essence here? I mean, for us to go with that speculation that we could find these people, bring them in-house, is that?
Time is of the essence. I mean, we're doing the year-end tasks now because we have to. We're doing the data cleanup because we have to. These contractors are going to be with us because we need them, or we're not going to get finished with year-end. If we don't have them in July and August, we will delay the upgrade. If we have further people leave, we will be delaying the upgrade.
And we anticipate it'll be done in September, hopefully?
Based on current staffing. If we have any more defections, we're going to have some problems.
Now, how long does it take to hire somebody like this if we bring them in-house?
Probably 3 months, 4 months.
Is it quicker to go ahead and contract than it is to bring them in-house?
Yes, it is. It's more expensive and it's quicker. We have these two on board right now. Jake, in the best case, we would like to hire employees. We would like to have employees do this, but we have to have the things in place to be able to hire them. Mm-hmm. And in the case where we don't have these skill sets, and this will not be the only technology we'll have this problem with, and this will not be the only time I will be saying this to you, but as we get into more and more new technologies where we're trying to get resources and we're competing with everybody else in the open marketplace, and it's difficult to get those skill sets, then we're going to have to be faced with a decision on whether or not we're going to contract or whether we're going to try and get employees. Either case, there's got to be an overlap period where if we have contractors in place and we do hire people, that they overlap and that there is a knowledge transfer and an orderly transition between the resources.
Right. So the CEO report's recommendation is is not that we cancel these contracts and get rid of these contractors. It's that for the time being, we use the salary savings from those 2 positions that are vacant to pay for the contract. And then when the report comes back in 60 days, or there's additional information provided at that time as to hopefully what's the status of the efforts to hire somebody. It has been possible then. How are we doing on the salary savings? How far behind are we on the payments to the contractors? There's enough money coming in that they can shift things around, and for 60 days it won't be a problem. After that time, we can come back and say, well, how much do we really need? Maybe there'll be a better sense of when the project is going to be completed. Is it still September? What's the budget for these 2 positions? So it's more of what we're recommending is that the funding be taken from the salary account, because those 2 positions that are vacant are going to be generating salary savings for the department next year that are intended to be used for the SMS project. The contract, as Ms. Levin said, is ongoing. The contractors are on board, and nothing is recommended to change that situation.
Randy, what's the relationship between SMS and FMIS?
SMS, the PeopleSoft system, does procurement and invoicing. It interfaces to FMIS, which is primarily the general ledger and our accounts receivable system, as well as more of our project accounting type system. We also have an inventory module in there and some other modules as well within SMS. Can I go back for one other point? Talking about salary savings, I just want to, for the record, say that we've eliminated 82 positions this year and 42 in the next year's budget. So, plus I did the zero-based budget. So we took out any fat that we had in our budget. So to believe that there's going to be salary savings from our department, I think is a fairy tale at this point. So I'm trying to be very realistic and give full disclosure of what I really think it's going to take to get this thing completed and for us to be able to run this system adequately.
Okay, you just answered my next question. And then the CAO made a recommendation on the contingency funding?
Yes, we had asked for like $240,000. They cut it in half to $120,000. With these kind of projects, usually we try and look at a 10 to 15% contingency rate just in case we get into areas that have been unanticipated. We're not going to use it unless we absolutely have to have it. That's why it's called contingency, and we certainly will report the financials of this project to the committee. The question is, do we have to come back here every time we need additional funding or positions or whatever we need? And that is what you need to answer for us.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody here to make a public comment on this item? On item number 10? Is anybody here to make public comment on item number 10? Seeing and hearing none, public comment on item number 10 is now closed. With that, it'll be the recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve the ITA report and approve the CAO recommendations 2, 4, and 5. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman, I'd also like to point out, it's moot because of the personnel recommendation. There's a chance this report hasn't finished the referral process, and per the mandated guidelines, this normally would also be referred to the personnel committee.
Okay.
Because of that.
So the president's office will refer it to personnel?
Most likely, because this thing hasn't officially completed, because they submitted the actual hard copy this morning. So there may be a further step the process we may have to resolve, even though you've not gone with the out and out.
All right.
Just informing.
Thank you for that clarification for the record. Thank you. Okay. I apologize. Is Greg Fisher here? Okay, Greg came up and spoke. Okay, got it. Because he had filled out a card. Thank you. With that, we move to item number 11.
Item number 11, ITA report and resolution of the Board of Information Technology Commissioners relative to dissolving said board.
Good afternoon again. William, Imperial Information Technology Agency. In regard to item number 11, what is before you is the resolution to abolish Bitsy that came about as of came about as a result of the regular meeting of the Board of Information Technology Commissioners that unanimously adopted the resolution before you, approving and recommending that the mayor and city council take steps to eliminate or abolish Bitsy. As you know, Bitsy was first formed in 1995 and has done a tremendous amount of work in the city, including ordering the refunding of millions of dollars for the protection of cable TV subscribers, and has done quite a bit of work in the telecommunications area as an advisory board. The Bitsy Resolution contains the rationale of the board in requesting the abolition of Bitsy based on recent regulatory, legislative, and administrative developments that have substantially reduced the role of the board, including most of the board's ability to regulate the rates of basic cable television service that we discussed earlier. And much of the role of the board in the review of transfer and renewal applications of cable television franchises was assumed by the city council and has now gone to the state, as we discussed as well. And with the adoption of this new state law, most of the role of the city in franchising cable and other video operators, the development of subscriber service standards, and numerous enforcement functions have been transferred to the State Public Utilities Commission. Bitsy also resolved that government entities should not exist for their own sake when the primary reasons for a government organization cease to exist. That entity should be eliminated. The board has now an insufficient role left to justify its existence. Bitsy's resolution concluded that the mayor and city council take steps to eliminate or abolish Bitsy, and that Bitsy would provide with ITA its recommendations on the transfer of Bitsy's remaining functions, including the review and approval of private line franchises, enforcement of customer service standards, and involvement in various information technology issues, such as Wi-Fi, the digital divide, and PEG access. The city attorney's office is joined in this task and is advising Bitsy and ITA on the transfer of Bitsy's responsibilities to other departments if necessary. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And consistent with that report, Bitsy was, the elimination of Bitsy was included in the budget adopted by the council for the 08-09 budget.
Yes.
Is anybody here to make public comment on item number 11? Item number 11, public comment is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 11, public comment on item number 11 is now closed. With that, we'll receive and file this item.
Thank you.
And take that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, that concludes the items on the agenda for this committee on this day. Is there anybody here to make general public comment to this committee? Anybody here for general public comment? Seeing and hearing no general public comment is now closed. This committee is now adjourned.